I absolutely agree, David. That guy was super handsome and nice. But
I know. I wish we could actually have him on as a guest someday.
One day.
He appeared to be so knowledgeable.
Well, appearances are great on TV.
I know. You can say whatever you want, edit. Now you're live. Big trouble's coming up.
Hi.
So, welcome back, Jeff.
Thanks.
We're going to chat in a minute on current issues in real estate. Again, thank you for bringing Shannon. I love when we can get some people from throughout your office so that we get someone besides you.
She has more information in her head about this stuff because that's all she does every day.
She deals with it every day. You're like a manager at CI. You just oversee, you don't do anymore.
No, not true. I still see clients.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and they're always like, "Oh, are you Jeff?" Yes.
They go, "Damn.
Why are you doing this?" Because I love it.
Well, that's a good thing. So we're going to chat a little bit about current issues in real estate, which is the polite way of saying, what can we do to make sure we don't put stress on a file on a transaction?
Right. And please, no one tune out. Like when I start talking about these things, actually listen, because they're not complicated things, but they can make all the difference in a smooth transaction and
Absolutely.
one where your client's left frustrated with literally things that won't take very much time but are really important.
And the realtors get frustrated, the brokerage gets frustrated, payouts are delayed, which means the realtor doesn't get their money as quick.
Or entire transactions fall apart. So
that's even worse than we never get paid.
Because then you don't get paid, and maybe you still owe money to other agents on the other side.
Get sued.
It's just better to do it right the first time. It's like measure twice, cut once.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, all right, I'll just jump right in. So everyone is sick of hearing about real property reports because real property reports, why can't we ever get these right? I don't know, but there's a difference. So real property reports, and come to the presentation this week on real property reports because it's important. But the difference is that 2016 contract really changed what happens with real property reports. And the crux of it is that now real property reports have to demonstrate the warranties, representations and warranties that are made in the contract. So before, if there was an encroachment that the city didn't care about and they stamp of compliance, a buyer wasn't going to sue a seller for a breach of contract because the deal could just close and no one wanted to spend the money. Now with the new language in the contract, if there's a, let's say a restrictive covenant, because we see these all the time, where a garage has to be or can't be within so many feet of a street, if you have that violation of the restrictive covenant, the whole deal can fall apart. The seller or the buyer doesn't have to take possession, the buyer doesn't have to close, we can negotiate whatever holdback we want because it is all in the power of the buyer. They have all the teeth of the contract that we used to have if there was no real property report for enforcing these issues. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a pain in the butt, but it's a good thing because we'll clean stuff up so there won't be problems down the road. So there's a lot of these lurking.
So if we're seeing an older RPR and it shows everything that really is the current improvement on the land, but we see that encroachment but a stamp of compliance.
And not just
and no agreement on
100%.
Title,
yes.
Should we be recommending the new RPR or getting it updated or dealing with it with the city?
So if you have an RPR that shows an encroachment and has a stamp of compliance or not, we may not need to get a new one depending on what's happened on the property. We can just get an encroachment agreement which fixes the problem. Where the issues we're seeing more often, I mean that happens for sure, is where people aren't pulling the restrictive covenants on title when they list the housing, we're just going to sell it. And the restrictive covenant has something that can't be there. You can't have a detached garage. You can't have a garage that's so many feet. There's going to be, I mean, it could be also the kind of roofing materials, the kind of paint, fences and all that stuff. So that's good to know. So if there's a problem, while not enforceable against the real property report, your client who's selling should be aware that, oh, there's an issue. Do we disclose it, not disclose it, and all that. It's the physical things that are demonstrated on the real property report that if it's in violation of something like a restrictive covenant, the RPR could look great. There could be no encroachments anywhere. It could have a stamp of compliance, but the restrictive covenant says, like Oboya, the entire area of Oboya says you can't have a garage within so many feet of a road, which includes the lane. Those are the situations that we're seeing come up more often.
Okay.
Okay?
We can usually, if we know ahead of time, work on it, we can resolve it long before possession day?
For 100%. Like as soon as you get that listing signed, pull that copy of the title, look at the registrations on title, look at the real property report. Don't just get it and put it in your file. Actually look at it and just make sure everything's okay all around. Make sure that it's up to date, that they haven't added stuff. Make sure that there's no encroachments. Make sure that the restrictive covenants are in place. And when you have a restrictive covenant, maybe 3 or 4 pages, but the meat is usually like half a page. There's some longer ones, but they're usually, if they're longer, it's usually all about water drainage or grading or things like that. So they're not as complicated. And call, like your lawyer that you work with is here to help you through the process. If you have questions, call them, email them, text them, whatever. Number 2, and I'm trying to be conscious of time.
We got lots of time. We're actually running ahead of schedule.
All right, okay.
No one is going to believe when I'm hosting that I'm ahead of schedule, but yes, we are.
We'll do it again. Excellent. So 2, we're seeing these days some development agreements, and again, registration on title that a lot of people just ignore. They say, oh,
yeah,
it's a development agreement.
15 years ago.
We don't have to worry about it. But there's a trick, because some of these development agreements have a clause in there that ties it to the land where money could be owing. And we've seen $5,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, and mixed things. Sometimes it's for, is the landscaping done? Sometimes it's, has the house been completed? Sometimes it's for a community sign in the area. I remember Heritage Point, we had these, and it took 10 years to clean them all up, so they do keep coming up. And now there's a couple of new communities where these are happening. So it's not only on the new build where, because for sure, the sales rep, if someone hasn't brought an agent in, is not telling about this. And
why would they introduce a problem?
I know. And the lawyer who's representing the builder, if they're getting the free legal services, is not telling them about it.
We'll talk about that one in a minute, because that's a pet peeve of mine.
All right. But when they go to sell it, or even if you're representing them on the purchase, we want to put things in place so they're not just accepting this on the title, where there's a mechanism to discharge it. Because even on the purchase, we might be able to close, the seller might be able to get a postponement, like the builder, a postponement for the mortgage company for things to go through. But you don't want to leave your client with this legacy where it's not written in to have a discharge, and now 5 years later they're having to deal with that aspect. It'll make your job as an agent, hopefully listing it for them when they go to sell, to deal with things. So better just deal with it right at the front.
Absolutely.
And questions, just call.
Always.
That's what we're here for.
Call manager, quick connect. Our lawyers are on there. Use it, use it, use it.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason.
100%. And there's like zero mind in doing it because it makes everybody's life easier.
So before we jump to the next point, let's touch a little bit more on the builder says, you can use our lawyer, it's free. I made that mistake once upon a time, long before I realized the error of my ways. And it came back to bite me because I didn't know anything about the HOA fee that was on there. And I got this bill and I went, yeah, right.
Yeah. So
didn't know any better.
And it's akin to this. I mean, there was a time where agents were acting in the show homes, selling the properties, and that was good because at least there was some fiduciary duty
Yes.
that a realtor has, or real estate agent. Now that they have these employees of the home builder, they have no obligation to anyone but their bosses, and so like you have to be cautious. So I will always, always, always recommend to someone who's like, oh, I'm going to go buy a new home, take your agent with you. Make sure you have someone who's representing you. Don't just be there, oh, just fill my name out on the form and so I get my commissions, but actually go through and be involved with that negotiation process.
Well, and the home builder actually respects you a lot more when you're fully involved in the process.
100%.
They lot less issues, and when something comes up, they'll work with you hopefully to resolve.
Absolutely. And likewise, when someone is buying through a builder and they're using the builder's lawyer is having someone sign that we're facilitating the paperwork, we're not charging you legal fees, you're not represented. So if you want to make sure that someone is there, looking out for your best interest, that's where you hire your own lawyer. It costs you money, but and in the 75-80% of the time where everything runs smooth, no problem. But it's a gamble because when something does go awry, we're now charging. They go to our litigators, and they're looking at $300 to $550 an hour, depending on their experience and the problem, for resolving things. And it's just it's that peace of mind.
Well, and we always say this to our realtors, it's never a problem until it becomes a problem.
100%.
And that's why you buy insurance, that's why you get a good lawyer to protect you all the way through, so we can discover issues prior to the finalizing the sale and can resolve them ahead of time, and they know exactly what's going on with a great lawyer.
And that's what all these points are about today. Great segue.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's almost like, no, you didn't pay me to do it, I know. But I really hit home the importance of having really good professionals that, no matter what they are, that our realtors should be recommending. It's not about price. You're spending $500,000, and yes, I can find a lawyer that'll do it for $350 plus disbursements, but do I want that one? I want the one who's going to protect my client.
For sure. And there are people who either work out of their home or without support staff. And there's so many moving parts in real estate law from our side that you need to have that support to make sure things are running smoothly and happening on time. Like when you factor, because we do flat rates, so people know what they're paying in advance. But when you factor in our flat rates compared to fees plus disbursements, you're about the same, $50 up or down. But it's that peace of mind where we're accountable. So if we have to send a rush courier because we forget something, I don't just get to add that to someone's bill. Like we're accountable to our client that way.
Oh, it's nice. I like that.
Yeah. Let's get away from the plugs because we got important information.
Well, it's not just for you, no offense, but if you've got a really good lawyer who's worked well for your clients in the past and you have a great relationship, you can certainly still keep on using them. If you need to add to your professional team of recommendations, Jeff, and I'll give the plug, our other preferred supplier and partner, Ryan McKay's law firm, they're all excellent. We don't have people with us that aren't. So please, use good professionals.
He's my favorite competitor.
I know.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing.
Next up, timing. So we're seeing more and more problems where people are setting the condition date 2 or 3 days prior to the closing date. And that's just not because the banks don't send mortgage instructions until after conditions are waived, which means if we get them on time to even close on time, it's a last minute panic. There could be rush fees. There could be, they might not get possession, or if the seller changes their mind, seller could pull the plug and keep deposit. So you got to be cautious with the timing. If things are tight, email or fax them to your lawyer in advance or the second that the conditions are removed so that we know that there's something coming up. And I'd much rather get things twice when conveyancing sends it to us than otherwise. If you're acting for the buyer, instead of relying on conveyancing from the other brokerage. Just send it. Like it's so much easier. Make sure we get contact information because that's often left off the contracts now.
You mean you'd actually have to speak to the people that are buying or selling the home? It makes it
so much easier. Yeah, and the banks sometimes don't give us contact information. Privacy policy. So yeah, please, we'd really appreciate being able to call the clients. And if we're calling you saying, hey, we're missing contact information, we really want to talk to this client to get them in, call us back, please. I'll sound like a needy boyfriend here. Please just call us. Because when we then call the brokerage, and the broker, well, it's not in our files. And we really have no, until the client calls mad, like why hasn't anyone called? It just makes life easier for everybody.
Well, and that's now a mandatory field on our back end when they're filling it out as client contact information so that we know.
Not everyone uses a CIR agent.
Really?
Well, I don't know, because we do not get
12.52% in 2017 did.
Oh, look at that.
That's
a good stat.
Yeah.
Next one, possession right for noon. We always tell clients when they're in to see us that there could be delays, could be a couple hours, could be right at noon, but don't have that moving truck waiting where you're paying them, because if a courier gets into an accident, or the bank's a little slow, or we send funds over, the other lawyer's at lunch, or the other lawyer calls their agent for the seller and they're at lunch not answering. There can be delays, and there's nothing that makes clients angrier than why aren't keys being released? We've sent everything. Keys can be released, but without getting that go-ahead from them, we're stuck.
Well, and we're talking to our agents too. If, by about 11 o'clock, you should be reaching out, finding out, did everything happen earlier? Has everything been transferred? If I'm the buying agent, can I now talk to the listing agent and say, okay, we've been told by our lawyer, everything's at your lawyers. Can you follow up with them and find out if keys were releasable? When you're representing the seller, be in touch, have that rep, and the paralegal. Let's go 100%. To the person that knows everything, exactly what's going on.
And the beauty behind technology today is the paralegals can look it up on the computer, see, the courier dropped it off, it was signed for by this person, so we know that they have what they need, but we still can't
We can't release
we can't
keys
release
as
the
buyers.
keys, right? So it's about, okay, we can stay on them, we can call, we can threaten, we can do all that stuff, but we know that they've got the money, but could be a receptionist is sick that day. It could be, who knows? There's all kinds of things.
Well, we closed once without realizing it on Stampede Parade Day. That was a grievous error because the lawyers' offices both were downtown in this case, and they were closed till 1 p.m. on Parade Day.
Yeah, you've got to be cautious of that
So
kind of thing.
little things that can come back to haunt you, think about those things.
Yeah, and if we know in advance that stuff's happening, we can make sure that everything's in place so that it can close on time.
Excellent.
Two more. So one, and these are in no particular order. So 24-hour clauses, it's so nice to know that there's a problem in advance, but when you're talking to your client, don't give them the comfort that, oh, we're protected, we've got this 24-hour clause, because unless you have a holdback for problems, it gives us more time to fight, but it doesn't solve the issue, and it doesn't give us any teeth to really protect our buyers. And buyers get so frustrated. We knew this was a problem beforehand. Why couldn't you just hold back money? Because the contract doesn't allow for it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's about setting those expectations with clients, seeing if you can negotiate that in, and if you can't, it's great. The lawyers, we can, like 90% of the time, we're negotiating settlements and making things work. But holdbacks, then we're not settling for less than what's required. We're actually getting what's needed. And as an agent, don't decide what number to use for that holdback amount. You can maybe talk to your client, have them get quotes, but let them ultimately make that decision. And this is Jeff helping REACs, because you don't want them to turn around and say, well, you told me $2,000 was enough to replace the furnace, and it's $6,000.
Yeah.
So it's just to protect yourself.
Absolutely. And I'll give a quick plug for a course we run all the time, which is Russ's on writing great contract terms and conditions. And the plug that right on our website on forums, you can click on the area supplementary guide. It's so easy to write it. You use the quick connect. You can even send your condition or term you want to add to a contract so that we make sure at the end of the day it's enforceable. The number of terms and conditions we see that just, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do here. It's just not enforceable the way it's written.
And agents have gotten in trouble anytime something's ambiguous. Through RICA or CREB, as I know, stepped in sometimes, and you've got to be cautious. You don't want to fine.
Yeah.
No, and because fine usually means you have a really mad client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you have a really mad client and it's you that screwed up, it will cost the agent money to make the client happy.
Yeah, better to jump in early and take that extra time every
Absolutely.
time. Last one is there's this notion that bridge financing is this horrific thing, and people are willing to trade their sanity for what they perceive is going to be thousands of dollars in costs for getting bridge financing set up. And usually, for a week, some banks have $100, $150 setup fee, others don't. And I know this is like mortgage stuff, so don't get scared. There's a point to this. But ultimately, it usually is just a few $100s for your sanity to move over time. But where agents sort of cause some confusion with people is that they will just say to their client, don't worry, you can get in early on tenancy at will. And in order to get tenancy at will, we need to have the dollars in place, the down payment dollars. So without bridge financing, we can't get possession. Without possession, they've got nowhere to live, and well, then I'm not moving out of my house. Well, then you're getting sued. So it's really just keeping that, again, the expectation of the client so that they understand, and having, if they're getting a B lender, there are times where you can't get bridge financing easily, but the client has to know that we can't just magically wave this magic wand and get them possession. They may not get possession of their home until the proceeds from their sale come through. And remember, if everything's closing at noon, if the sale proceeds from their home don't come to noon, this is like best case scenario, then we send them to the other lawyer, they're getting possession late. So again, there's that moving truck, moving on the same day issue. Or if they come the next business day, they're staying in a hotel and putting everything in storage.
And if it's Friday,
it's a long weekend. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we've worked magic. We've got someone in possession where we didn't get documents until a half hour after possession was supposed to be, and they needed possession for the weekend. We got it. We don't encourage it. It's just, every time you rush something like that, it's rife for potential issues, and just better let's just get everything smooth in advance, and that's why we do education. Can I throw one more thing in?
Closing dates, when to pick them?
No, we've already talked about that one.
Okay.
But just with respect to holdbacks, and we talked about real property reports, we've had a couple of situations where agents will, as a buyer, negotiate a holdback amount for a real property report issue. The contract is very, very protective of a buyer if the real property report, there's a problem with the real property report. So make the lawyer aware of the issue. If you have questions, call the lawyer to talk about the issue. But when we went through on one in particular, we were in a great position in terms of protecting our buyer, except that the agent had negotiated a $2,000 holdback, and which was great for the seller, but it handcuffed us. And so when we were going through things with the client, we said, oh, this is the way we normally go. This is because they had asked about it. And then we pulled the contract to look at it. It's like, all those things that kept you super safe, we can't do them. And we didn't directly say it's because the agent did this. Like, we don't want to do that. But you just have to be really cautious. So, again, lawyers as a resource, we're not charging extra. I know Ryan doesn't. Like, this is what we do.
No.
So we're here to help.
And to me, the safety aspect when you're in a complicated sale like that of just putting in that additional buyer's protection of an additional buyer's condition that simply says, subject to the review of the buyer's lawyer to the buyer's satisfaction, will make sure that you can hopefully protect it. And if we see something we don't like, we can not waive and redo or fix.
Just some caution on a condition for real property reports. And we did go, I had the losing end of this.
Well, and I prefer not writing them. But.
Right, and it was the buyer satisfaction. So there was a condition for real property report review to the buyer satisfaction. No lawyer, but I mean, it's the same principle. There was an issue, and I don't know if they just didn't notice it or thought that they were going to rely on the rest of the terms of the contract. But there was a problem with the real property report. The buyer waived the condition, and the other side said, no, this was to your client's satisfaction, so we're not getting you a new one. And we went to the Law Society, and they said, your client acknowledged they waived the condition because it's to their satisfaction. It's like a home inspection. If you say home inspection to a client's satisfaction, if the roof needs to be repaired, they can waive it, but don't expect anything to be done on the roof. You got to renegotiate that into the contract. Same thing with the real property report. If it's to the buyer's satisfaction and there's an issue, then you need to negotiate in that they're going to fix whatever it is, they're going to get whatever remedy is needed, and we can talk about that, but you just want to be careful.
Great.
So many little things.
Your opinion on title insurance. We hear realtors just throw it out there, oh, we'll get title insurance. Don't worry.
Yeah, title insurance, again, is not a magic wand. So first of all, known defects usually aren't covered. So if you know there's a problem, you can't say, oh, we're just going to get title insurance. It'd be like if you just had a heart attack and say, oh, I'm going to go get life insurance. No, they're not going to give you life insurance. So we can't do known defects. There are limits to policies. So, I mean, yes, they do cover a lot of things. Personally, I like it. And I got into a little, I won't call it debate because she's fantastic, but one of the title insurance managers, I said, well, I like it I like it, but it's a personal choice. Any insurance product is an personal choice. She said, no, you have to tell people you have to have it every time. No, we always tell people about it and let people make an informed choice. I think there is value to it for sure. I mean, I like it for the fraud prevention. That's just me. I've encouraged my parents to get it just for the fraud prevention. There are times where it's useful. Some lawyers will force every single client to get it. Often it protects them more than the client because now they're covered. If you're doing your job, you can do a lot of things, but to protect it, but there are some things that we will never see. So was there a basement development? And if there wasn't a basement developed that wasn't disclosed, there could be some coverage. So there's different things that it does cover, but don't, it's not a magic wand. Yeah, and again, it doesn't always ensure that something's going to close. If you have a new condo, brand new condo, those we have to wait for actual registration. Title insurance doesn't make that go away. We can't title insure to make them close on time. So there are pros and cons. Great resource, great tool. It's just up for people to decide if they want it or not.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you have a great week this week. Jeff, thank you very much as always coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Encourage everybody, if the class is not yet full, which it likely is because you're very popular, get in there and get to his class this week. It'll help your business. And please, again, thanks Shannon for us.
I will.
Everybody have a great week.
Thank you.